Hi everyone, this video is part 4 of data visualization. Let's see the agenda of today's lecture. First of all, we will learn about histogram. Then we will see frequency polygon. And we will do it by reading some theory and doing some practical work. So let's get started. What is actually a histogram? A histogram is a popular type of graph used to display the distribution of numerically based quantitative data. It has a rectangular area to exhibit statistical data that is proportionate to a variable's frequency and width throughout a series of numerical intervals. It has a unique feature that is similar to a vertical bar graph and exhibits no gaps between the bars. Value intervals are frequently referred to as bins, and an interval's length is referred to as its bin width. The ideal bin width is one that provides just enough detail without being overwhelming. Now, you have an important point to consider. Histograms are used to display qualitative data and are comparable to bar graphs. One of the two methods can be used to create a histogram. First one is by using the R's built-in hist function. The next one is by using the ggplot2 package. The syntax for the first one is as follows. Just use the hist keyword, pass the data frame, and some parameters, where data represents the histogram's parameter that holds the numerical values. Xlim and ylim are used to plot the x and y axis values respectively. Break represents the width of each bar that is determined by using this parameter. Next, we have call. The bar's color can be changed with this option. Now let's move to our studio to see how this function works. First of all, I will set my working directory. I will say data size D and R. All right, so let's read the data set. I will say msleep, and here I will say read.csv. And here I pass the name of the CSV file, which is msleep.csv. And next I will say head msleep. Well, first of all, let's say I create a histogram for my first numerical or quantitative variable, which is sleep total. I have said hist function, and then here I will pass the data frame, and I will say take the variable of sleep total. All right. And I pass main equals to, which is going to be the title of my histogram, and main will be histogram of sleep total. And then I will say color equals to green, and then I say border equals to, I pass the color black, and here I say frequency equals to true. All right, so you can see your histogram right here. Here is the frequency count for each of the observation of sleep total, and you can see that the borders are highlighted with black color and the bins are filled with green color. Now, for instance, I only want to see the histograms between 5 and 15. So I will use a parameter that is known as lim, because I want to put the limit on x-axis. So I will say xlim equals to, and in the combined function, I will say that gives me the value between 5 and 15. See, so this is how this function works. Now, one can also do one thing here, which is changing the size of their bins. I'll say bricks equals to 5. So you can see here that each of the bin now consists of the size of 5. So this is how you can use the first R's built-in function. Now let's get back to slides. The second method involves using ggplot2 package, a tool that is quite helpful for producing elegant bar graphics. By dividing the x-axis into bins and counting the number of observations in each bin, you may see the distribution of single continuous variable. The syntax for it is as follows. Just use the Geom histogram function, pass the data frame, and the required parameters. Let's move to our studio. Well, first of all, I will create a variable named as histogram. And here I will create the ggplot function. At first, I will pass the data frame, and then I will use the static function. And I will say take the sleep total column for the x-axis. And next, I will add the Geom histogram function. All right. Now, let's say histogram and run it. So you can see the output here. This is the histogram for the sleep total column, and this is the count on y-axis for each of the value in total. You can see that the sleep total around 10 has the highest count. It means that most of the observations inside the dataset have a sleep total of around 10. Now, one can also do another thing here, which is by saying, let's say I have another histogram, and this time I want my bin width to be changed. So bin width is actually the width of these bars in the histogram. A good bin width is the one that does not confuse the user after seeing or visualizing their histogram. Let's say my bin width is 5, and let's note the difference. So you can notice the change here. Well, for instance, I want to see the histogram according to some colors. Let's say I create a new histogram, and this time in the aesthetic of ggplot function, I use a parameter of fill equals to, and I will say var. Let's see the difference. Now you can see here your bins according to the var and their counts. You can notice that on the sleep total of 20, you have only insectivore and carnivore. Insectivore has the count of 2, which is 20. So that is how by using the parameters, you can get more and more insights from your visualization. Let's say a person wants their histogram to see on the y-axis. Then you will simply say y equals to sleep total. All right. Histogram 4. And here I will say histogram 4. Let's run it. So you can see here that your histogram has been changed to y-axis. Another option to do the same thing is, let's say histogram 5, is by adding the function of code flip. So you can see that the output is same for histogram 4 and histogram 5. Here I use the y, and here I use the code flip function. Now, another thing can be done, such as I'll copy this chunk of code and paste it. Let's say histogram 6. And here in the Geom histogram, I say position equals to dodge. And I use one more function, scale fill. rear plus theme dark. All right. Now you can see the difference that each of the observation has been positioned according to their role and counts. You can see at the position of 10, omnivore and carnivore. Now let's move forward. I will copy this chunk of code once again, and this time I want to make subplots. So in order to do that, I will say histogram 7 plus, and I will use the parameter of facet grid, and here I will say var dot. So you can see different histograms and their counts according to each of the var, which is carnivore, herbivore, insectivore, and omnivore. Let's use facet wrap. Well, this is much better than facet grid because you see columns and rows as well, and the visualization is much better. Now let's move back to slides. Next, we have frequency polygon. Frequency polygons depict the counts with lines, whereas histograms display the count with bars. When comparing the distribution across the levels of a categorical variable, frequency polygons are a better choice. The syntax for it is below. You just use the Geom poly keyword, pass the data frame, and some parameters. Now let's do some practical work once again. Well, first of all, I will create a frequency polygon variable, and inside this variable, I will create a ggplot function. I pass the data frame, a static function. I say sleep total, and then I use the Geom polygon function, and inside the ggplot function, I say fill equals to var. All right. So let's run frequency polygon. Well, just like we have seen earlier, the bars for the 10 sleep total were the highest, and you can see here a line graph instead of the bars. So this is how the frequency polygon works. Well, I have to use the color variable here instead of fill, and let's run it once again. I get it. I had to use it inside the static function. Now it will run. So you can see here the difference. Like we know, omnivore has the highest count for the sleep total of 10. You can see a purple line graph here. And the insectivore had the highest count of 2 for the sleep total of 20. So this is a pretty visualization. Well, an interesting thing is that you can also use frequency poly with the facet wrap function. All right, let's try it. So we were right. This is actually a good visualization. You can see the counts on y-axis and sleep total on x-axis for each of the var. You can use any other categorical variable here as well. Now let's move back to slides. So this is the end of today's lecture. I have some homework for you. Here is the link of the dataset, and your tasks are to use histogram, write down the insights you have found, and don't forget to use the frequency polygon using the Geom frequency poly function. Now good luck, see you next time.